Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I'm going to be straight with you from the get-go here. I don't have all the kind of content that I normally do for a video today. I don't have any research done. I haven't done anything because I've been just kind of kicking it into high gear around here, trying to get some things caught up because I've put too many projects aside to do all these other stuff that we're doing. And today was a beautiful day, actually kind of hot for this time of the year, and got quite a bit done. My goal before winter was to build a small kind of pole barn out in the field for the animals. The shelter, the lean-to shelter that we've had for the sheep and the dogs and stuff, it's not great. Keeps them dry, but not great. And especially when the sheep start lambing, like last year, it happened when it was really cold, and the only really good place I had was the shop, so I had to move them into the shop after they gave birth, and so I wanted to build a place that was a little bit better. So all summer long, I've been little by little collecting the materials to build one, and really started pushing hard today and got almost all of it framed in, ready for the siding. It's one of those things, if you do this kind of stuff, you get frustrated. I was almost completely done, and went to grab I needed 2 more boards to make the framing done and ready for the siding, and realized that one of the boards that I had was the wrong length. It wasn't long enough for what I needed. It was just one spot that I needed some long ones. I thought I had enough, and I don't. And of all the lumber and stuff that I have just, here in our own little lumber pile, I did not have that one size. So I can't say that it's completely framed in, but I'll get that done tomorrow. I'll run and grab that one board. Anyways, that's the kind of stuff that we're doing here. I know that's a lot of this kind of stuff that a lot of you are doing. You're not just, you are prepping in the sense of getting things collected, food and all that kind of stuff, but you're also realizing, winter's coming on, things are getting kind of sketchy, like bad sketchy, and it's time to get serious and get as much stuff done as you can while you can still acquire materials at a decent price. Even though it's gone up, most things are somewhat affordable, right? So that's what I've been doing today, and I think I'll have another day tomorrow to do that, and then from there on I'll be back to doing community things that we're doing with our kind of group of people here in the Ozarks. So anyways, I know that's a really long intro, and someone's going to say, get on with it, quit rattling on. But that's why I don't have this stuff, and I really have nothing planned, but I just wanted to get on here and talk. Yesterday, I had to run somewhere, one of the little dinky towns around here, and I think the Father planned it, right? Ran into this guy, this older gentleman, and he was coming out and I was coming in, and he held the door open, one door open for me, and I held the door open for him. We kind of laughed, and I was like, oh, come on, And so we started talking. We ended up talking for half hour. He doesn't even know that I have a YouTube channel. I didn't say anything about it. So it wasn't like he recognized me because of that. It was amazing because the stuff he started talking about, it was just so organic. I don't even remember how we even got started talking about stuff going on in the world and getting ready in a physical sense, and then that shifting to a spiritual readiness. And I'm telling you, him and I, it's like I even laughed. I said, man, it's like we've been on the same, thought for a while. And he even pulled out a piece of paper. He's like, I wrote this stuff down at lunch today, and just some ideas, and everything he had written down was stuff that either my wife and I have recently talked about, either I've talked about on here, or I've talked recently with other folks in our community. So it was really interesting and cool to meet someone completely random that we connected on that level. And I'm not talking about just a preparedness level, spiritual level too. Found out that we believe and agree very, very similar and close, and and it was just a good moment, and it was energizing. I walked away thinking, wow, just meeting some random guy in a small little town, and being able to connect that well, and to find so much in common, and that we've both been thinking the same thing. And one of the things that he was talking about, and that he and I were talking about, was how everything is just falling out of control. Explain however you want, and it's on every in every area. I've said this more times than I can count, and I personally believe, because this is one thing that I don't see a whole lot of other, whether it's YouTubers or these experts and stuff, talking about, how we're heading towards a crash. One thing that they don't include a lot of times is how the moral compass here in America is collapsing. How the disgusting degradation of our society. The stuff that's being allowed and encouraged, and it's awful, and it's disgusting. But he and I were talking about that, about all of it, and how we as believers, we as preppers, we as people that get it, that realize that the world is kind of collapsing around us, so to speak, we need to get in the places that we need to be secured. And he was telling me, and he's not from the Ozarks. I don't even know where he's from. He lives in the Ozarks, but originally he told me that they'd only lived here in the Ozarks maybe a year or two ago. But I don't remember that he told me where they came from. And he was saying, he said, I believe that the Father just called us here, that we need to get here because there's other people like us. He said, and there are. And we talked about that there's places, not just the Ozarks, there are places that people are starting to kind of congregate to, because they realize these big cities, for the last 2, 3, 4 decades, the big push is that to be prosperous, to make lots of money, and to have this, comfortable, luxurious lifestyle is to leave your parents' and grandparents' farms and move into the city, right? That's what everyone's done for the last generation or two. And people are waking up and realizing, well, that was a good idea then. That's a really bad idea right now. So we're seeing people all over the country get out of these cities of sin and evilness and Marxist ideology and stuff, and they're trying to get back to the more rural roots that they might have. And so we were talking about that, and he said, we have to come together as people. He said, because there's people around here, and we were talking specifically in my area, and again, this will translate, and you can use it for other areas around the country. He's saying that, we believe in different things. We believe differently. We live differently. We're different people. We're not all the same. He says, but we have a lot of commonality, and we have to put aside some of these differences. I understand that there are some deeply fundamental differences that if I differ on with someone, then I'm probably not going to work with them. But most of the people in what you and I would consider the preparedness homesteading community, most probably aren't going to differ much on those really deeply fundamental principles. And so he was saying, he said, we've got to put aside these differences. He said, because they are, the things that are happening in this world, the things that's happening here in America, from a physical, political, financial, and spiritual sense, it is really an attack on us and our way of life, and the traditional values that we want to hold on to, and our independence, and our spiritual beliefs, our beliefs in the Father and the Son. He said that it's all an attack on that. He said, and we've got to realize that we may differ a little bit, you and I. We may have slightly little different beliefs. We may, do things slightly different. He said, but in the end, we share a lot of things in common. We've got to come together. And And I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's something that my wife and I have had conversations about, and a few other friends of ours, is that we've got to stop this little infighting, bickering. And I'm not saying it happens all the time. Don't get me wrong. I don't really think that it happens on a grand scale, but it does happen from time to time. Disagreements are fine and great, but we have to realize that we have to stick together. And I've used an analogy. I'm not sure if I can regurgitate it right now exactly how I've said it in the past. That you know, when I'm thinking of kind of community and working together, you're going to have your little small core group of people. These are the tight knit little groups, and they could be various sizes, several, a few families up to several families, and these are people that you really believe alike in just about every area, spiritually, everything. You're just close knit. I mean, maybe you are all a family, and if you're not, you're as close as you would be with family. And so you're going to have that. And then you're going to have a little next layer out. And these are people that you believe pretty much the same way in all different areas, but you're just not as close to. Maybe it's because they live a little further out. Maybe these are people that are coming to like these prepper meetings and stuff like that. So you know them, you trust them, but you may not agree on everything. You're not as close with them. You may know their name, their kid's name and stuff, but maybe you haven't hung out at their house or whatever. But there's still a pretty good level of relationship trust there. And so you can work with that group of people. So that's your outer. And then from there on, you have people that you may not know at all. You may only know their first name. And you may not know what they believe spiritually. You may not know exactly what they believe politically. You may not know all these details, but you just know that they're a pretty good person, okay? And I'm going to use an example like for here. There's a particular kind of feed store, hardware store, mechanic shop, tire shop, all in one. And it's old, and it's not any part of any national chain or anything. It's just two older brothers, older gentlemen that have own it and run it. And it's dilapidated, and it's the kind you go in and there's always at least 5 or 6 old men sitting in there, having coffee and talking and that kind of stuff, and you spend way longer in there than you need to. That's where I get my tires done. That's where I, get a few other things. I don't know everyone in there that well. In fact, I don't know, I know the owners, and I know a few people I've got to know. Some of the old men that's just the regulars sitting there, I've got to know them on the first name basis. But for the most part, I don't know anyone there in detail in their private lives or anything. But I know that they're good people. They're decent people. And we may not follow the good book the same way. We may not, run our homes the exact same way. We may not have this outlook on the future of what's going on the exact same way, but I know they're good people, and they're people I would trust. And if things start crashing down around us, I know that if I went to them to barter and trade, that I think I could trust them. I don't think that they would take advantage of someone like me. And so we've got to look at it like that everyone within our circle of who we're building connections with doesn't have to be inner circle people, okay? They don't all have to be super tight-knit, trust everything about them. They trust us. We've been to their home. They've been to our home, their foxhole buddy kind of thing. And not everyone has to be that level. It's good to have that kind of little tight-knit circle, but there's also levels out from that of people that and people that you have various levels of friendships and relationships with, but all the way from knowing quite a bit about them to knowing very little about them, other than they seem to be a pretty decent person and you'd be willing to work with them. That's kind of how we need to think, because as things continue to go down the we're going to need kind of that network, and having that little small nucleus of strong, close-knit people. That's good, helps each other out, defense, all that kind of stuff. But then when you start to trade, you know, if you've got 4 or 5 families, at some point, you know, you're going to have to start trading outside that group. And so you can go out to the next level, and you could probably even go out to the third level very comfortably. And then if you're needing help with stuff, maybe your house burns to the ground, you know, doo-doos hit the fan, your house burns to the ground, and there's 3 or 4 families that are close-knit, and maybe it's just not enough to really get the project done, so you move on to that next outer level. And these are people that you've talked to a lot, you've gone to local meetings with, you know them pretty well, and you know that you trust them coming to your property and helping, you know, with the project of building your house. And then that third level that I've talked about, that would be someone that you're gonna trust, that you can barter with, and they're not going to stick it to you. They're not gonna, you know, like in some apocalyptic movie, you know, shoot you and try to take all your stuff. The point is that we can't always be such sticklers when it comes to preparedness and building kind of connections and relationships with people. We can't be a stickler that we only want to be around people that we absolutely like and absolutely trust and absolutely believe exactly alike. It just doesn't work that way. Think back to, you know, past communities and, you know, 1800s, 1600s, things like that, where you had these communities, these little villages and towns that the reality is they were kind of closed off from the rest of the world and had to be self-sufficient. There were people in there that didn't necessarily like each other, but they most usually, I know the movies tell a different story, but they weren't going around killing each other and stuff. They may not have liked each other too much, or there may have been things they didn't care for each other, but they worked together because it helped the community. It helped each other. It helped bring strength and sustainability to the community. And so we have to start, and some of us do a good job of this, others not so much. We've got to be willing to work with people, even if they're not identical to us, even if they don't believe exactly like we do. We've got to put aside our differences and do what we can to kind of work together. Because I'm telling you, the other side, the globalist, the evil, the Marxist, you know, all that kind of stuff, they're all working together. They do great at that. They don't care if they don't like each other. All they want is control. All they want is to get rid of you and your freedoms and your way of life. And they don't really care if they don't like each other. You know, they're real good at that. The enemy of my enemy is my friend thing. And so we really need to start doing that too. We need to stop you know, just, well, fine, I don't like you. If you don't agree with me, I'm going to take my toys and go home. Because the time is coming towards us, and it may be sooner than you think, that we won't live in a world that we have the privilege of being like that with each other, of being so nitpicky and getting, you know, our feelings hurt and whatever over little stuff. We really have to really work on that. We've lived in a society that, you know, we could do that and still survive fine, but I don't know that we will much longer. So just because someone isn't just like you, it doesn't mean they can't be part of some kind of connection and community on some level. We've got to work together, because at some point, next to Father in heaven, they may be the only things that we have to stay alive and help each other out. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed my babbling ramble of I don't know what. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.